You're listening to hashtag No Filter with Zack Peter. That's me, your naturally platinum blonde pop culture connoisseur. I'm the reality TV junkie, self-improvement addict, and host with only the hottest tea spilled fresh all week long. Those balls have gotten you into trouble, though.
Yeah. They picked us because we're horny.
Yeah,
right.
And that's your chronic state.
24/7.
My life has changed so much that it's almost like a completely different life.
From the latest news on the Real Housewives,
I'm so happy to be here and engage with you.
deep dives into celebrity legal scandals, and unfiltered convos with your favorite stars, I've got you covered. And yes, I always keep receipts. Welcome on in, welcome on in, welcome on in, everybody. How are you doing today? Happy Wednesday. I hope your week is off to a great start. I hope you have stocked up on some of the new No Filter holiday wine out now. We have I Always Make It Nice, and oh my God, I'm lit. The two new holiday wines, they're available now. Fizzy white wine, fizzy rosé, 13% alcohol by volume, but less than a gram of sugar. Thank you guys for those of you that have ordered it already, and for those of you that are going to order it, thank you for ordering. Thank you for going right now to nofilterwine.com and stocking up just for the holidays. Limited edition, so once they're sold out, they are sold out and gone for good. Okay? I'm good. So stock up now at nofilterwine.com. Must be 21 or older to order. Please sip responsibly. I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for supporting me and supporting the wine. Well, I'm excited because we've got a great interview today. I have Teddi Mellencamp on from Two Teas in a Pod, and we talk about a lot. We talk about Jen Shah at BravoCon. We talk about her thoughts on Salt Lake City, Potomac. We talk about her thoughts on Beverly Hills. We talk about the Fox Force 5 and the shift in their friendship. We talk about Lisa Rinna and should she be put on pause, and Dorit versus Erica and the all-in controversy, and Teddi appearing with her dad on Watch What Happens Live. We talk about her journey with melanoma. We get into a lot this week, so I hope you enjoy today's episode. Thank you for supporting the podcast. I think you're really going to like it. This is probably one of my favorite interviews that I've done in a while. So without further ado, shall we dive in to all the latest and greatest with Miss Teddi Mellencamp? Let's do it. Some of you love her. Some of you hate her a lot. But one thing she's not afraid of being called is a twat. She's not afraid of hard work, but she'll never do your dirty work. But that's what makes her podcast one of the best. And today, I'm ready to dive all in. Please welcome a co-host of Two Teas in a Pod, the Teddi Mellencamp.
Oh, I love that intro. Very impressive. I need you as like my hype person.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I actually just got finished podcasting right now. And so I was excited to come on. And then right after this, I zip over to get a mammogram. You know, it's all the things.
How are you doing with that? I know you've been very open about the melanoma, the melanoma cancer. And I know Tamara was just at the iHeart Awards and she was getting really emotional about that. How are you doing? What's the latest update?
You know, I'm doing well. I think the best thing is that we caught it and we just have been so diligent. I mean, now I think we're at 12 melanomas that have had to be removed. We did the genetic testing. I get those results back on Thursday because that will tell us like if it's happening because of other underlying issues. And then now I'm just doing all the mammogram, the things that everybody kind of overlooked during COVID because nobody was going out.
Right.
So it's like all of those doctor's appointments, just getting it all done so we can make sure that we're staying ahead of it.
So Tamara said, I think she revealed you've had, 10 melanoma surgeries now. So can you kind of just give us a little backstory on like what your history with the cancer is and where you kind of currently?
So the backstory is I had always for as long as I can remember, these little white spots like in a cluster on my shoulder. I thought they were birthmarks. Like I had them that long. And then Kyle says she can remember from when we started filming, they started looking a little red. Like she noticed they were changing. And my husband would too. Like he'd be like, oh, those spots. And I had a dermatologist look at it back then, but not scope anything. And so it was fine. They were like, oh, you know what? It looks like normal sun damage, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
And then about probably 3 months ago, I was on a run with Kyle and she's like, you're going to the dermatologist and you're going now. And I was like, why? And she's like, one of them has a big brown dot on it. it needs to happen. So that's how I ended up going. I went to her dermatologist. She came with me, and immediately the dermatologist was able to say, I'm pretty sure this is melanoma. Do you want me to remove it now or just, do a biopsy? I'm like, just get it out. Yeah. And then when I went for my 3-month checkup, that's when they started finding all of these additional ones. And the first one I had was just melanoma and C2, and then it continued on to stage 2 and all different ones. So the oncologist who's done all the procedures since, he's like, I've never seen somebody have so many melanomas in one location. So that's why it's so important to do the genetic testing and find out if it's somewhere else in your body. And that's why this is happening.
So you had the predisposition to develop melanoma, and then I guess now it's gotten advanced. Have they been able to link like what has gotten it to progress? Is it really just, genetic, or is there something that you've kind of had to change in your lifestyle? I know sun often affects it too, right?
Yeah. I mean, for me, I think growing up, I was one of those kids that I had a tanning bed in my room, that it's like we grew up and our parents smoked in the car with us, driving us to school. I mean, everything was so different than it is now. But even as an adult, I didn't take the world. Like, I'm one of those that loves to like run and have a tank top on or a sports bra. And I put sunscreen on, but I put sunscreen on 1 time a day and assume it works. So, I mean, there are definitely things I could have done better that I've now had to adjust. But mainly now it's just going forward and getting checks every 3 months, seeing if more things come up, and then getting all of the other checks to make sure that, it's not linked to something else. And also making sure that all my family gets checked now. Yeah. Because,
staying proactive. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
My kids are like, you should say it's a shark bite on your shoulder, because it's such a disaster back there. They're like, that'd be a really cool story, Mom. Just say a shark bite. I'm like, that's all I need is to be caught lying.
Right.
That's all I need.
I mean, and that's a very believable lie that a shark just came and bit you on your back, right? Just a little nibble.
Just a little nibble. Didn't get the arm off, but just, a couple dramatic slashes.
Okay, so Teddi, I did want to squash the beef with you because I was listening to 2 Teas in a Pod this week, and you said that I used to be so terrible to you before. And so I did want to say, one, I know I can be a shady bitch sometimes, and I've had some shady moments in the past, but I did want to say that, like, if there was ever anything that I ever said or, offended you in any way, I did want to say that I'm sorry, because I am a big supporter of 2 Teas in a Pod now. And I'm a big proponent of getting you back on Housewives. So I think, I did
listen, the beef is squashed. I think at one point or another, everybody has had bad things to say about me. And now that I do a podcast and have to watch all of these different shows and have my opinions, I consistently say you're only as good as last week's episode when I'm watching other cast members. Yeah. So I get it.
It's hard because your job is to comment on things and to have reactions, and you're reacting to like a television show or something, or a sensationalized headline in the press. And so sometimes you have and listen, I know I can have really big, opinions about certain people or certain things. I think now the only one I really drag these days is Jen Shah, but I think it's just because she like has shown no remorse, and she's like, guilty.
I mean, I'm frightened for her to reactivate the Twitter after my interview we just had with Angie. From Salt Lake. I was like, Angie, you better take some deep breaths. This is gonna get rough for both of us. She already calls me and Tam 2 pussies in a pod. So
I heard.
Who knows what's coming next?
Well, you saw her at BravoCon, right? Weren't you in the hotel, in Tamara's hotel room when she came into
Yes. And so there was so many of us in there. It was so chaotic that we were so late to the event that we missed the red carpet at that night. Like, we were just like, we've got Lisa from Miami getting glammed. Yeah. There's a bajillion people coming in and out. Heather's there. And then all of a sudden, Jen Shah comes in with her therapist, her jewelry broker, and her security guard. She sits down in the chair. She starts getting glammed. Like, we end up leaving. Like, Tam for a minute was like, maybe she should come. I'm like, no, Tamara, you've already been fired once. No, she was not invited to BravoCon. We're going, we're getting in the car. And then the best part is Jen Shah was still getting glammed by Tam's people. And they said that when she left, she took alcohol from the bar.
Oh no. Why am I not surprised? I mean, were you at the infamous after party that she crashed, that she said she never crashed?
Yes. I mean, but I was such a hot mess by then. Who even knows? Like I was like stirring so much crap between the girls in Dubai. I was like getting one bit of information from one, and then I'm like, I was like, I need to get a handle on myself with being involved in the Carolyn Brooks and everybody's drama.
Well, can you set the record straight? Because she just did a YouTube live stream where she said that she did not crash the after party. It was a public venue and it was open to the public, and she just walked right into the after party.
I mean, I think you can use the word crashed. It's like, okay, so let's go back to like high school days where people would have a party and you knew clearly if you were invited or not invited. And if you were not, if you were not invited and you showed up, that's considered crashing.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you weren't invited. Yeah.
You weren't invited. So it really is up to you. Yes, it was at the place where we were all put up to stay. So it's pretty obvious that was there.
But she wasn't put up to stay there. She said
was not.
Yeah. She said that she rented a hotel room separately and then ended up crashing with Heather.
Correct. That part I believe. But no, I do know that she was there, and I would say with 90% of my drunken haze memory, she was asked to leave.
Oh.
I think I feel like that was the big talk of the night.
Ah.
But I was not standing there for that conversation.
Listen, I mean, my thing is, it's like, okay, you've pled guilty. You're crying on Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. You're saying that you're innocent. Like, my thing is, it's like, it's the holiday season. Spend it with your family, be with your kids, because you're saying that that's your priority. My head is just like, the last thing I would be thinking about is going to New York for BravoCon when I was disinvited from the event, and she still got her paycheck. She says that they still paid her for it, which I'm assuming is how she was even able to travel to New York, is because she probably said, I'm technically paid for this event. So even though I'm disinvited, I'm still going to attend this event, because I don't think she's allowed to travel out of the state unless it's for work. But it's just, why? And then we see her on TMZ fighting with people in the streets, and I'm just like spend time with the family. Let's not do interviews. Let's not go to parties. Like, let's just,
Well, that's where I think, people do Housewives for one or two reasons: money or fame. And I think it's clear that she wants the fame aspect of it, which most of us do.
Yeah.
There is something in us that makes us feel like we're not good enough. So all of a sudden we're trying to get this outside validation from others, and fine. But it's just that the negative energy she's putting onto it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's fault that they said this, or me and Tamara were liars. She didn't come to our room. She didn't know whatever it is. It's like, at this point, you're doing the most when maybe you should focus on the things that really matter at this point.
Yeah. Like, that's the last thing. Like, Erica's not out at parties. Erica's not out doing a bunch of interviews. Like, and she's not even been
but
charged
let's also
with
be
anything.
clear, Erica has not been charged with anything, nor is there a sentencing.
Right.
It just was way more talked about. And I think that Angie actually said something that made a lot of sense, because so many people have made the parallel. Why on Beverly Hills was there so much talk about the Erica thing? And she said, truthfully, in Salt Lake, we are the type of women that if one of our friends tells us that they didn't have something to do with it, we believe them until something changes.
Right.
And we had to believe her and have her back, because that's what friends do.
Right.
Which you didn't necessarily see on the other end. Like, that never really transpired. Like, everybody was jumping.
Even now, Meredith and Heather Gay are like very much standing by Jen Shah. And listen, that's their friend. I can't, they have a loyalty and, a relationship with Jen, but it's very different from the way we've seen Erica be treated on Beverly Hills.
Yeah, I think that's true, because I think what you also have to remember, until the season ends, Jen Shah was still pleading
innocent. Yeah.
Innocent. So I think now, once we get to the reunion and all of that comes to play.
Well, Heather Gay was still defending her on Watch What Happens Live. What was it, like last week?
Heather Gay was a freaking mess on Watch What Happens Live, saying, what did she say? Every time I say something out loud, like it's a lie. Like, she pretty much said anything that I say is a lie.
Yeah, because, she said that it's her trauma response, I think was her excuse, that she just doesn't like conflict, so she'll just say that she doesn't remember something even if it's a lie.
Right. I mean, we all have trauma responses. I don't remember anything until like the 7th grade, but
But also, once you become aware of your trauma responses, then you like, as a proactive adult, you start to take steps to like address the trauma so that you don't have the same pattern that you repeat that's unhealthy.
Or if you're on a television show where it's going to come back to bite you in the ass, write a little note every time something happens to yourself so you can remember.
What do you think happened to Heather Gay's eye?
I think she probably fell in the bathroom trying to get it open and like bonked herself. And that was the most expression I ever saw from Meredith. Like when she does her, I was like, wow, there is life in there.
Are you enjoying Salt Lake this season? I feel like I'm enjoying Potomac. I'm not a big Salt Lake fan this season just because I feel like we're not addressing the big elephant in the room, which is Jen Shah and, her upcoming trial. I feel like it's weird that everybody's like, let's give Jen the best room and let's take her on a vacation.
Yeah, why are we all kissing her ass?
Because she might, and their justifications, well, she might be facing 50 years in prison. And it's like, it's not just because a judge decided they were going to give her 50 years in prison. Like, we're forgetting all of the action that led up to this potential sentencing.
I think they're all just, I think Jen can be a very good time.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, when she was in our room at BravoCon, we were laughing. There was moments I was like, wow, she's hilarious.
Yeah.
Because she's over the top and she's a big personality. But I think that it's just going to get to a point on Salt Lake where real friendships are going to have to be formed. I think, and I think Heather and Meredith do a little of, believe me, I did it myself too. Do a little bit of self-producing and isn't doing them any favors. And it's
okay. So explain that to me, like self-producing in what way and how can they be less produced on the show?
I think that, for example, Heather was cool to be with Whitney as long as Whitney was kind of going along with her plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've said this before, and this isn't throwing shade. I think Heather is she's the LVP of Salt Lake City. And she wants things to be her way, move in this direction. But you can see it starting to crack. I think she said this last episode, I'm lucky to even still get the invite on this trip. So I think she's clinging to Meredith and to Jen, and they're all just doing the best they can because at this point, real relationships are forming between Lisa Barlow and Whitney.
Yeah.
And we're starting to get a little bit more of that. I enjoy Salt Lake. I mean, compared to some of the other shows that we watch, I think that Salt Lake's good. I think we're going to see more. I didn't particularly love how the women, put down the Friends of, because I think you need Friends of, especially with a cast of 5.
Yeah. I think that's what makes Beverly Hills so great right now is you have all of these full-time women and then you have the friends of that also just kind of add variety to the show.
Yeah. And to me, when even Jen poured the champagne on them and Heather and Meredith trying to say it was funny, there's nothing, not one of them laughed.
No.
Not one of them even did a courtesy laugh because it was so uncomfortable. And clearly it was Jen trying to show her power over her friend that she brought on the show.
Right.
So, I mean, it's good. I'm way more hooked on Potomac, but
yeah, Potomac's great this season. How are you feeling about Mia?
At first I was for Mia. I was like, listen, here I'm for you. I'm with this. And Wendy was driving me bananas. I was like, I'm so done with you, Wendy. Like, I don't want your entitlement. I don't need to hear how many degrees you had. I barely graduated high school. Like, I don't care. The fact that Mia has made me a fan of Wendy,
right,
shows the level that Mia has done a complete shift. It's too much. I don't want one person alienated out and not being able to be like, calm your tits. Like, why would you say that she can't even come to these dinners? Like, you're all on this trip being paid the same amount, you're here to do a job,
right.
Do the job or you leave.
Right. And the job is conflict and resolution. So if we're on a cast trip and there's conflict, at some point there needs to be some sort of resolution. You can't just, because now it does feel like Mean Girls. And I know people say that a lot about Beverly Hills. I disagree. But with this, it does feel like Mean Girls because you're trying to flex that this is your trip. And so you're not allowing the other women to hang out with this one other person. And so you want the whole group to isolate that one other person rather than just trying to have some sort of resolution with Wendy or at least get into a decent space and be like, hey, it's Karen's birthday weekend. Let's try to at least make it nice for Karen, because Karen's actually her friend.
Yeah, which you can see. I think that Mia is always straddling the fence a little bit. She's one of those also, she has like, forgetful-itis where she can't really remember what the person said, and then it makes it sound worse than what they actually said. But I think the real truth is going to be what ends up coming out between Mia and Jacqueline, because I already think that she is treating Jacqueline, if that's your best friend from whatever, third grade or middle school, whatever it is, she's treating her like she's nothing. Yeah. Like, I don't like that air of entitlement. If I personally had somebody that was like a true friend from like growing up and brought them onto a show with me, I would want to lift them up. Yeah. I would want to make them feel like they, have a place. And I just don't think she's doing that. And then Candace just, bam, took her down, like Mia's representative. I'm like, come on, Candace, we need something here. And I love Candace. I loved her at BravoCon, but that was a little much for me.
I'm not the biggest Robin fan, but when she brought out the speaker and she played Candace's new hit single for everybody on display, I was like, it was great. It was a great moment.
I mean, this Tamara and I died. You realize that this speaker is from a paid post, and we all have it. But I know Robin though is getting it, because I tried to tag her in something and she won't accept tags. Oh yeah. So like she's getting a lot of heat. I mean, I think
so how do you work through that as a housewife though, when you get someone cheat? Because you've taken a lot of heat and I feel like it's been a little unwarranted, and I know people love to call you boring. I was one of the people that I have to admit, Teddi, I used to say that you were boring, and then in retrospect, and I brought this up a few times on the podcast, where I'm like, what was it about Teddi that we thought was so boring? She used to drive storylines. So being someone that's been in Robin's position and has taken a lot of heat from people online, and I love your clapbacks on Twitter, is it really just about muting all the comments and kind of tuning out, or how do you even process any of that? Because I feel like it's gotten so intense.
I think as long as you're being who you are, as long as ultimately you feel good about the decision that you made, then you have to just tune out the comments. Like there was certain things my last season that was like, come on, guys, I'm 8 months pregnant. I'm showing up. I'm doing the best that I can. I'm in another country. I can't do any of the things that anybody else can do. And I am one foot in front of the other here. But there were mistakes that I made, in the Bahamas the year before, where I couldn't necessarily stand behind some of the decisions that I made, and I regret some of them. And so in that moment, like I wasn't ready to accept that I made mistakes, because I had this weird thing in my head, which I feel like the podcast and years of being out has taught me, is like, I don't have to be somebody for everybody. Yeah. I'm not, it's okay if so-and-so doesn't like me, or if this person doesn't like me. And I feel like I kind of came into my own with my voice post. And now watching back, I'm like, ugh, why did I do that? Why did I say that? And I feel like I would handle situations differently. But I also think you see what you want to see in somebody. Yeah. And if you don't see a bunch of their extra stuff, then all you see is them in conflict. And you're like, oh, they're boring. Yeah. I feel the same way about Housewives when I watch them.
Do you miss doing Beverly Hills at all?
Not this season, no. This season, watching back, I'm like, woo. I mean, there are parts that I miss, the relationships with some of the women, you're really with them a lot. So those relationships I loved, like some of the producers became some of my closest friends. So that kind of connection, I mean, you spend a lot of time with people. That part I miss. I mean, I get just as much heat and talked about just as much doing the pod. So like, it's not about relevancy at this point. Yeah. Like I get myself in enough trouble without being on a television show, but I mean, there are parts that I miss, and there are parts that I'm like, wow, I get to be with my kids a lot more. I get to not have to wake up with anxiety every single day. Yeah. Like there's that.
So I keep making the argument that I feel like, and people are starting to agree with me more and more, because I keep kind of like pleading my case to the audience, that I feel like you and Brandi Glanville should come back to Beverly Hills next season. I feel like you both have such an organic and like natural history and connection to the current cast members. I mean, you're part of the Fox Force 5. So like, I feel like you coming back in, especially with it seeming like there's like a shift in the dynamic of the five of you guys, and with Brandi kind of just always being the one that, is kind of like that truth bomb that shakes everything up. I just feel like the two of you back in the mix would be very exciting to watch.
I mean, I never say never. I do think there is an aspect, whether it's me or somebody else, where that dynamic needs to shift a little bit. I think you saw it completely shift at the reunion when not one of the women got up to hug Kyle when she was having that, you could tell it was hours and hours of crying.
Yeah.
The only person that actually hugged her was Andy. So I think we've reached a case in Beverly Hills where all of the women have gotten to a place because some of them so strongly play to the audience that now there's some of those authentic friendships aren't there. Because if somebody is constantly, if they're reprising their personality on what Twitter is going to say about them, yes, you may get some great confessionals, some sound bites, some those types of things, but ultimately those relationships are shifting. And I think that's happening. I don't even like to say the word Fox Force 5 because it gets so much heat, but I think that's happened within that group. I think a lot of stuff happened at BravoCon. I think, our relationship is definitely more separated than as that group mentality we once had.
So who would you say you're the closest to from the current cast right now?
Obviously Kyle. I mean, and then Dorit, I talk to quite often. And I mean, I still talk to Rinna.
You don't talk to Erica.
I do. I not as much. I mean, Erica reached out to me during my last surgery and was like, do you need me to take you? I'm here for you, but it's been a little bit more distant.
Why do you think that is?
I mean, truthfully, what Erica said about Dorit's marriage at BravoCon wasn't the world's best.
Yeah.
Best thing to say. I'm like, you have 100. I mean, I was annoyed at Dorit at BravoCon too for calling me the worst dressed. I was like, and that was the worst dress, but I was like, I texted, I'm like, bitch, there's 137 other housewives to choose from.
Right.
Like you really, I get enough.
Okay, but to be fair, I feel like Watch What Happens Live is such a challenging show to do because you're live and sometimes you get put on the spot. So I think to Dorit's point and even to Erica's point, sometimes you're put on the spot that like you have to act on like your first instinct. And so, sometimes you were just the first person to pop in Dorit's mind.
Please, I've done it a million times. You walked around BravoCon and said, thousands of housewives. You have and if it was a joke,
Giselle was an easy one. Yeah.
The thing I said, I don't even remember who I said it to, but the thing I was thinking, like in regards to Erica, and listen, this is not, I don't have any skin in this fight. Yeah. I just know that's why our group is not, the communication is not there as a group. I'm still talking to Erica. I just, within that group text it's minimized. Yeah. But I do think if she wanted to make a joke, it could have been about one of, she could have been like Lisa and Harry, to totally make it a joke.
Do you believe that it was really a joke?
I believe that maybe she was meaning for it to be a joke, but I mean, like she walked up to the front of the stage and like she took her moment. She knew it was going to be a moment.
Because some people were saying that she was just doing it to set Dorit up for a storyline next season.
I don't think so. I don't think anyone's that contrived about I don't think so.
Or that worried about anybody else's storyline.
No, I think you're worried. Yes, hopefully other people are going to have drama so it gets off her. But I think that then once they played when you think back to the reunion and Erica telling the story about PK, I think there's underlying, there was just something, there was shade there. And whether it was a joke or not, you have same thing I said about, Dorit, you have 100 and whatever it is, 37 other housewives to choose from.
I love Dorit and Erica so much that I'm just like, I just started seeing Dorit's dentist, Dr. Jay Grossman, Homeless Not Toothless. And
Homeless Not Toothless?
I just started seeing him and I was like, oh my God, this is Homeless Not Toothless. Like I saw The Office. I have an appointment with him next week. I think I have a teeth cleaning. And then Erica's just been so supportive of me that I just, I love them both. And I'm like, please don't be in beef because I would be so torn between the two of you guys.
No, I love them both too. And I think that it just needs to get, I mean, I've said this, I want to see, if I'm watching next season, I want to see the peel back. Like I'm done hearing about Erica's lawsuits, all the, I don't need to hear it, Ronald Richards. I don't need to hear it. Let's wait until we get to the end of this. But I want to see her dating life. Like I want to see what's really going on.
Yeah.
Like her, you know, even the therapy appointment this past year,
Yeah.
I thought that was a good piece because you could see some of like what she's really going through instead of being on the defense all the time.
Yeah.
And I think when it comes to Dorit, I think so much of this year, she was really battling having that trauma that we didn't really see I miss messy Dorit.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see that again. Like the one that's just wants to get in there.
Do you think that that was part of the trauma that she was going through? Or do you think that it was also maybe part of the reaction that she got from social media? Because in her first season, when she joined Housewives, she got a lot of heat in those earlier seasons and people didn't really like her. And I feel like they were a little hard on her. Do you think that when the audience is a lot harder on you, you kind of peel back a bit and you maybe are a little more reserved?
I think that's the issue with Twitter fans. I think because they're so loud. I mean, granted, Instagram, there's way more love, there's way more kindness, there's way whatever, but like Twitter is so loud. And if they're mad at you, they're mad at you. And I think Dorit endured, what was it, 5 or 6 years? And so then she got the 1 year reprieve where people were starting to come around. And then I think she just was like, you know, like this was nice.
Yeah,
right. Somebody else have a turn.
Nice to not get beat up every season.
Yeah. So, I mean, but I hope that there's a happy medium.
Yeah.
And I hope that like when fans watch the show, they can watch it with knowing like we are watching this for the highs, the lows, the drama, the you know, the Dorit calling Camille a stupid CUNT, like all of those things. Like,
yeah, you can't listen. Twitter is ruthless and toothless. Like I can't with Twitter. They're literally the worst. And speaking of like Twitter trolls, I know you've had your fair share of hot takes on Ronald Richards. I feel like him and I are always kind of getting into it because I just feel like he operates in this place of like speculation. He loves to fan, you know, the heat waves and kind of just like stir things up just to have attention. I mean, when you have to self-verify your own Twitter account and then promote your own tweets so that more people see them, that's everything.
I mean, I think also it's to the point where I hate it. We get a breakdown before we do the podcast and it's like Housewife headlines. And then I'll click on it. And it's like always has to do with something with Ronald Richards. And I'm like, I feel weird even reading this because there's no real basis to anything that he said. It's not like in my opinion, any real established and credible lawyer is not tweeting.
No.
Leave that to messy housewives. Like, please, like if you are really taking the victim seriously, you're not out there tweeting and trying to make yourself known about the situation.
He's making such a joke of the victims, and that's the hardest part is he wants to position himself as like, I'm fighting for the underdog, and it's the complete opposite. You can look at his client history. You can look at the way that he used to treat Taylor Armstrong when he was representing Russell during their divorce back in the day. I mean, it's just, it's ridiculous, and he posts these things like the earrings. So I actually want your take. So he originally said he was going to buy the Girardi Pasadena estate and made a big public declaration and said, I'm going to buy the house. I'm going to turn it into a museum. And then he quietly withdrew his bid on the house. And then now the earrings are up for auction. And so he's claiming that he's going to bid those earrings up because he wants to buy them for his wife because his wife has endured so much of Erica's heat that she deserves the earrings. Do you actually think
the wife was like a fan of Erica?
I think they're like, the wife is not innocent. She used to come in my comments and drag me, and she used to call me Nut Zack and all of this stuff. And she used to like try to defend her husband all the time because I would call him out for his bogus speculation. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh, Ron, your wife wants to play. Let's talk about the wife. And then that's when all of a sudden he's like, can you please not talk about my wife? She doesn't want to be involved in this. But she's behind the scenes. And I get where she was provoking Erica because she used to provoke me too and go in the comments. So I don't think that she's all that innocent and deserving of these, earrings from the Reslin patients.
I mean, I'll believe that he buys the earrings when I see them in the
on
wife's
her ears.
ears.
Yeah.
Like until then, please. The second I don't even want to say this guy by name, but the second that he even aligned with the guy that was supposedly going to be at the reunion.
Oh yeah.
Anything you say really means nothing to me anymore. Like you've gone to that level. Like, nah.
Oh yeah. No, I received threatening emails from both of them. Like it was insane. They were just
they just want fame.
They want fame and attention.
They want fame and attention. And you know what? I mean, we're talking about them right now. So kudos, guys.
Kudos to you.
Yeah.
What's your relationship like with Crystal right now? Because I know you guys used to be friends.
So we've always been friendly. We are in the same friend group. Our kids like would do dance class together, those types of things. But I was never one of her like fancy friends. So like she has two sets. She has like the friends that our kids are all the same age, and we did Mommy and Me and kind of came up that way together. But now our kids are older and they're all at different schools, and it's different. It's different than when they're toddlers and you go to music classes and do these things every day. So I still see her. We don't have any issues. And I thought it was pretty cool at BravoCon. She came up to me. I was having lunch with my producers from the podcast, or it was dinner. And Crystal was sitting, over in the corner, and she came up to me. She's like, listen, I know whatever you got to do, whatever you got to say, that's your job. I'm not going to be mad at you. And, and I was like, and same goes with me. Like, I am commenting on how I feel on what I'm watching. And I was always your supporter. When she came on the show, I was happy she got the job. I was the one that referred her. I was thrilled that she did it. And I just wish she would show a little bit more of what I see in her as a person, as a housewife. And then I think that we could see more sides.
Yeah. No, I agree. I was the biggest fan and supporter of her first season, and I really didn't get critical of her until this most recent reunion, which ended up getting me blocked by her. But I was like, but again, like, as you know, like, our job is to comment. And if somebody's if we don't like somebody's performance on a reality show, it's not reflective of them as a human being. But, I thought at the reunion she really bombed.
Yeah, I think it's hard when you have the perfectionist aspect to you, and you want to make sure that you're right, and you want to make sure that then it's hard to see outside of yourself. And I think I think there were parts this year where she just took it, and I realized, being new with the group, but now we're enough time into it.
Yeah.
Where,
So you're not one of the 14 friends that dropped her.
No, I am. No, that's the fancy group. That's not us.
So do you feel any conflict being that Crystal and Kyle have kind of become adversaries?
No, I don't think that I knew from the beginning they weren't probably going to hit it off.
Is Kyle too fancy for Crystal?
No, Crystal Kyle's not fancy at all. Like, Kyle off the show, so chill, laid back. And so here's the thing, Crystal is too. Like, she's the one that like comes over. I always tease her. She wears like these same khaki shorts and her button down, and she'll dance funny. Like, in real life, she doesn't take herself so seriously, which makes her very charming and fun. And when she lets her guard down, that side of it. But I think when she was showing like, that she has to have I think Kyle can admit when she's making mistakes a little bit, or like, I really stepped in it there. I was wrong there. Shoot. Now watching that back, that wasn't great. But Crystal kind of doubles down on her
and I think that comes to bite her back in the butt, because I've heard from people that she is really down to earth and fun, and I'm just like, I wish we got to see more of that side of Crystal on the show, because I really enjoyed her when she first came on in her first season, even when she was like not afraid to go toe to toe with Sutton. Like, I think she just brought a more real side of her, whereas this most recent season, I feel like there was just a little bit of a guard up, and she was kind of a little more on the defense the entire season.
Yeah. I think that's what happens, and hope, and then it'll either go either way. Then she'll completely pull back, or she'll come in guns blazing. So it's like, you never really know if she were to be on next year. So
do you think Rinna needs a pause?
I do. I think that Rinna, this is ultimately the problem. If Rinna was Ashley Darby and had her phone on in that Sprinter van, at the end, we would have a completely different season. But I think the fact, anytime, and you can remember back to, this gives me PTSD even thinking about, back to Lucy Juicy Apple Juicy, whatever the hell her name was. Anything that happens off camera, just the hate that you get, and then your way of trying to like climb your way out of the hate is problematic.
Yeah.
Do I I would hope that if she stays on and she's there, that we see a little bit of a distance between her and Erica, so we can see them both as individuals. And then I think we could start to see different sides of both of them. I'm not saying they should have a falling out. I'm just saying I think a little bit of separation there. The same way I would say that when I was on, people would say, gosh, it's too much you and Kyle. You and Kyle. Yeah. And yes, you can be best friends, but there are moments where you can let that best friend speak for themselves.
I agree.
Now watching it back, I'm like, wow, I guess I didn't really need to jump in there. That was
But sometimes I feel like you feel protective of your friends. So you kind of want to jump in just to have their back and,
Yeah, I mean, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. Mainly if Rinna stayed off social media this year, I think it probably would have been better for her. But I do think that Rinna was also going through a tough year. Yeah. I think she witnessed something that made her really upset. And she's someone that is, you either have two personalities. You're either one that like sits back and stews and thinks about something, or you just have that immediate gut reaction. And she's like that. You piss off that donkey and it's going to kick out at you.
Yeah. And listen, grief can fuck with you. Like your head, your emotions, your rationale, like it can really mess with you to the point where, you really don't see rationale. Like you are kind of just like caught up in your own, your own emotions. And sometimes the best way for you to lash out, maybe not the healthiest or best, but the only way you know how to lash out is by, taking it out on other people.
Yeah. But I think if it wasn't for that, then also we would have had we can't
it would have been such a boring. Yeah, it would have not.
We can't have a full season of like, the other side of the couch kissing each other's asses, right. And like being besties no matter what happens. Like it's not going to work.
Yeah. So we do have some listener questions that people sent in for you.
Okay.
Norma wants to know how the kids are doing, and if now doing the podcast, if this gives you a lot more time than when you were on the reality show.
The kids are doing great. They are, I'm so happy they're back in regular school and everything's, life is relatively more back to normal. And yeah, I do have more time with them, and I do appreciate that extra time because I didn't think they really remembered it, but they were like, Mom, you used to have to go out a lot, like you're out a lot at night. But the kids are great and they're fun, and we're kind of out of that hard stage with Dove, and we're like, welcome to the family. We want to be around you more. So yeah, they're good.
So do you enjoy doing the podcast more than you did doing Beverly Hills? It's different.
I would say they're two totally different things. Look, like I'm here. I was able to walk my kids to the bus this morning, come back, do my podcast with Tamara. I'm paid to watch television for a living.
Yeah.
It's not bad. Like there are worse jobs. We do 3 or 4 a week. Like the fact that we hit over, whatever it was, 3 million downloads last month, it's good.
So wait, can you confirm whether or not you guys are the top Bravo podcast? I know Brandy's up there, and then I know the Green Eyed Bandits also like to say that theirs is like the number one.
Of course we're the top Bravo podcast. But this is what's confusing about the algorithm. If you go to the top episodes, then from each week, you'll see it down. And 9 times out of 10, we get number one, bop. But then sometimes you'll go to top shows. And if it's a new show that just launched or anything like that, the algorithm pushes them up to the top.
Yes.
When you see Bethany, it's like we keep topping her in the charts, but then she'll be on a higher show. And I'm like, what is going on here? And they're like, her show just dropped. So ultimately she'll be
prioritized. Yeah.
Yeah. She'll get prioritized. So whatever that algorithm is, but no, if you go to the weekly episodes and you look at the numbers, we're top every week.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's easy for a new podcast to break into the top 100 because that's what gets the priority, because they get new subscribers, new listeners, and new
comments,
reviews.
All those things. Yeah.
The reviews really make a big impact. I know you guys get beaten up in the reviews. I get beaten up in the reviews all the fucking time. And I'm just like, and all it is, it's like worst podcast ever, Fox Force 5 payroll. And I'm just like, you guys fuck. If you don't like my show, then fuck off.
I at this point, I just lean into it. I'm like, let's go.
Whatever. Whatever. Yeah.
Teddy, why do you I'm like, I can't do anything right, from my hand movement to talk. I'm like, it is what it is. But obviously we're doing enough right to get that many listeners. So I'm like, Let's go.
Yeah, I'm like, I either get like, hardcore love or like scathing hate, but I'm like, that's how you know you're doing your job right, because you're invoking such strong reactions out of people rather than being vanilla and kind of just like, floating in the wind.
Yeah. I mean, it was like bad enough that my last beat up, I think, was after Watch What Happens Live with the reviews. People were like, or not the reviews, the ratings. And I'm like, listen, I got higher ratings than anybody else on this day and time. And I'm not even on a show, and Family Karma was the lead up. So like, we gotta.
No, yeah. I was looking at the reviews because somebody said, "Oh my God, Teddi got such terrible reviews on Watch What Happens Live." And then I looked at everybody else's viewership for that week, and I was like, Teddi got the strongest views that week. And you're right, you're not on a show right now, and
And it's whatever lead up into Watch What Happens Live is. But it was just a moment. I'm like, do I defend myself? And then I'm like, Teddi, stop. Yeah. It does not matter. And then I know, like, I'll look at the engagement. I'm like, I see the engagement on Twitter. I see all of it. I'm doing my job. Yeah. It is what it is. I can't be like, no, if you actually check back to what Heather's was, please stop.
Listen, you're one of the top trending housewives that still continues to get people talking. And yet people love to say that you're so boring. I'm like, then why don't you guys stop talking about her?
I mean, I must be polarizingly boring because they can't get enough of talking shit about me.
Sultan wants to know, who is the first housewife that comes to mind that you think has overstayed her welcome?
First housewife that comes to mind that is on any franchise?
Any franchise, yeah. I mean, I would personally love Beverly Hills, but if you want to pick any franchise, I'll let you pick any franchise.
Overstayed her welcome. I mean, I'll just go to Beverly Hills, and it's only been one season, but I don't need to see Diana again.
Yeah, I feel like she really fell flat.
I feel like I really liked her.
Yeah.
When I met her, but she was something else on the show, and I don't need to see it.
I feel like off the show, it's a different type of person. And I feel like she's a lot more likable in person, but on the show, it just didn't land and she just didn't connect.
Which goes to my theory. If you're so rich, don't go on the Housewives. Like, really, if you are so over the top rich that you can sue anybody that you want, you can do this, you are going to not deliver in the way that somebody that's a little bit thirsty is going to deliver.
Yeah.
I mean, think about the different type of Erica we got once she was in this predicament than when she was before.
Yeah.
Like, you got to be a little hungry to be a good housewife.
Yeah. The best of them are hungry, a little thirsty. I mean, listen, unless you want to die of dehydration, you have to take a glass of water. And sometimes when you're a little dehydrated, you need to really take a glass of water. And I think that's when we see the housewives really thrive and shine. I also think that's why Brandi Glanville was always so good.
Yeah, I think Brandi was, but I think what ultimately ended up happening with Brandi was she just didn't have a relationship with anybody on the cast anymore. But I think she does now.
Yeah.
I think she's built those, relationships. I also know that the year that she wasn't allowed to come on to the reunion, last minute, we were all like, what? Now she can't tell her side of the story. It was a whole thing. So I think, relationships were formed even more in that moment because we all expected to see her there over Zoom.
Yeah.
And then she was gone.
Yeah. And I know she's got beef with Sutton that she wants to hash out.
Oh my gosh. The Google alerts I got from after she was on our pod. I'm like, she actually texted me this morning, me and Tam. She's like, guys, I forgot how mean everybody is. I was like, welcome to Two Teas on a Pod. I'm like, making friends daily.
Right. Oh my God. So, and you're not a big fan of Sutton either, right?
I actually am fine with Sutton. I wish Sutton was the way that she is in her confessionals.
To your face.
In scene.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Because I think she gives good confessionals. I think she's funny. I think she shows it all. And so then in like my jaded mind, I'm like, is she fed those lines? Like, does she have her glam team there helping her? That's where I go to because I'm like, in scene, she shuts down.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
Her bring that same type of energy. She gives great confessionals. Her shade is great. Like, all of it I think is great. And I think she has a lot to bring. I just think socially she can come off a little awkward. And so she kind of just buckles when you have
she's quirky for sure.
But like when you have like an Erica or a Rinna, like they come hard that it's like, I can see her kind of just shut down.
Yeah, you can see that she shuts down, but she also, isn't afraid to throw it out there.
Yeah.
But then you got to
keep the ball in the air.
going. But I saw her at BravoCon. I went over to her. I'm like, are you going to do 2 teas in a pod? And she's like, oh, aren't we fighting? And then she sat down and she's like, I always liked you, Teddi. Da, 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 da. Like we had a nice conversation. I'm open to getting to know Sutton differently. I didn't really have the opportunity to her first season on. And, it is what it is. I just need to see, I need to see that friendship dynamic change as well.
With Sutton?
Yes. I need to see this. I needed a little, like, the blind loyalty between Sutton and Garcelle is just as strong as the blind loyalty between Lisa Rinna and Erica. Yeah, like it is the same to me.
Yeah. And Dorit and Kyle.
And no, I don't think so.
Really?
I don't think I think they can have it, but I didn't see that blind loyalty from Dorit to Kyle at the reunion.
That's true. Yeah. Or during the season, or in Aspen. I think Dorit.
Or in Aspen, yeah. I think if Dorit feels a certain way, she will pull back and do whatever she wants to do. But I think the only people that could have potentially stood up for Kyle at the reunion that it would have made a difference, Dorit or Erica or Rinna, I don't think it would have. It would have taken Garcelle or Sutton or even Crystal to like have Kyle's back in some capacity. Yeah. And you could tell they were all squirming in their seats.
Yeah. Aaron D wants to know what your biggest regret is from doing the show.
My biggest regret is not showing the full text messages during the Vanderpump Dog stuff.
What didn't you show? Oh, because it ultimately made it look like you were lying, right?
Yeah. And I mean, listen, I was completely complicit in going along with the scheme, but I cropped the text messages because it broke the fourth wall. Because I said, I'm only going to film this if the dog is here.
Yeah.
So I cropped that part, trying not to break the fourth wall. Granted, I had shown Dorit and Kyle the full text messages, but production never told me to crop it. I just was like, well, I don't want to show. Yeah. Maybe it was to cover my own ass. I don't know. In hindsight, I should have just shown them as is and been like, yeah, I didn't particularly like Dorit, and LVP and her team wanted me to come along and do it, and I went for it. Yeah. So that was a mistake.
Do you think there's any opportunity for there to be resolution with LVP?
We talked. I think we're fine. I mean, I no longer am in a place. I didn't see LVP before the show. I don't see her after the show. I randomly bumped into her because we were with some of the Vanderpump Rules people after the MTV Awards, and we went to, is it Tom Tom? Shoot, I don't know if it was Tom Tom or the new place.
Schwartz,
but either way,
yeah,
we were at one of those places, and she was there. And I asked Ken, I said, should I say hi to her or should I just ignore the situation? He's like, I think she would appreciate a hello. Yeah. So I did. I was very nice.
That's good.
As nice as I can be.
Sadie Jones wants to know, do you feel since doing 2 Teas in a Pod, you've become more popular, and are people seeing a different side of you rather than what we saw since Beverly Hills?
I think, I mean, my husband and I talked about this a little bit. He's like, you just come more into your own skin. Like you've gotten more comfortable speaking in public. He's like, when you first came on, I mean, I've said it a little bit on my pod, but like when I first came on the show, Edwin and I were like going through a really tough time. Not during my audition tapes, but like afterwards, that we were going through a rough patch. And I just remember going into the show, I didn't know anybody, and I just was in autopilot. And I just was really kind of trying to figure it out. And by the time I figured it out, like everything that was going on in my personal life, which I probably should have just let play out on television, but I just didn't, I was just hanging on to everything. That's why I cried all the time, like so emotional, because it had nothing to do with anything than the crap that was going on at home. And, yeah, so I think we talk about it now, and he's like, no, you're so much more open now. You were so concerned that you were going to say something or do something, and it was going to hurt your life, that you didn't actually let people see you.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, I say everything on the pod. I'm like, this is it. You know, this is who I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. No one's perfect. So let's go for it.
I also feel like with a podcast, like when you're on a reality show that's an ensemble show, you're going to have people that are going to be diehard one person that may not like you. So you're going to get a lot more heat. Whereas with a podcast, like you have to really be interested in the host and interested in what they're saying in order to listen to a full hour of their podcast. So I think people that will tune into the podcast will give you, you know, a little bit more of a, you know, an open ear or an open heart to kind of give you some space to get to know you a little better and to get to like you, give you a little space to kind of, you know, form an opinion of you. Whereas on a reality show, we see 7 minutes of you a week, and it's with all these other people. And sometimes you have favorites. And so when you have a favorite, you dislike the rest, right?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, which people have gotten to know through the pod, through my comments on Twitter or Instagram, whatever it may be, is like, I can be quite self-deprecating.
Yeah.
And I think when you see it on the show, sometimes it came off because the other one would be like, oh, don't say that about yourself. Like they weren't getting that I was making fun of myself.
Right.
So then it like would put me on this weird defense. Like, guys.
Yeah.
We can laugh at ourselves.
Right,
like,
right.
no, I don't own a Birkin yet. Or, you know, like I borrowed this from so. Don't say that. Don't say on the show you borrowed this. I'm like, I didn't have very much money when I started the show. Of course I borrowed it.
Right.
Oh, you didn't glam much first season. No crap. I'm barely making any money. Like second season I did. Like, what do you mean? I haven't changed. I just have more money.
No, you brought up your husband. Can you clarify? Because some people were saying that Dorit's home invasion, that the alarm system was installed by your husband. And so people like to make that connection that, you know, there's an issue with his company.
People love to do that. No, it wasn't one of Edwin's alarm systems. And I believe that Dorit has publicly said whatever alarm system she did have was not turned on.
Yeah.
But it wasn't. People just want to assume that we're like out to get everybody. But no, I mean, my husband's the biggest home automation and security company out of all of Brink's dealers. Like he's huge and all across the United States, employs so many people, does so much good work. And you know, people just want to look for something, and it's heartbreaking that it happened, but there's things to be learned from something like that. Like, yes, it normally happens during that time of night. Yes, it normally happens the higher you are up in the hills because it's further away from a main street. You know, all of those different things. It could have been a learning opportunity, but people just are so quick to attack that then you can't even really talk about it. And if you have an alarm, set it.
Yeah. And I feel like they give Mauricio like the same type of heat. They love to kind of just grill the husbands and their businesses based off of their impression of the housewives on the shows.
Yeah, which, listen, we're all a reflection of each other on the partners that we choose or the people that we, end up being friends with. But we all have good and bad moments. It's impossible to think that anybody does. And it really depends on what's going on in your housewife world, on what you're going to see in that home life aspect.
Yeah.
And there are some moments where like the husbands are just phoning it in. Like we may, I remember like being real pumped up about something. And I was like really hoping that Edwin was like going to give it to, this scene was never shown, but I was like, really? And he was like, yep. I'm like, no, you prepare. But in real life, I don't really talk shit about my friends to my husband.
Right.
I have friends to do that too.
Right. Last question comes from Heather Rogers, and she wants to know if there are any of your dad's songs that get on your nerves.
There's no songs that really get on my nerves. I mean, there's songs that get on his nerves.
Yeah.
Like after Watch What Happens Live, which you could tell that's like so not his thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, afterwards he texted me. He's like, he's like, you look happy and full of life and scared of what I'm going to say. And he's like, I look bored and red. He's like, and every song you said that you love of mine is from like 20 years ago. Thank you. I've done like 25 albums since. No, but I'm stuck a little bit in the past. Like I love the 80s hits, but that's on me. Like my workout lists are 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
Like that's who I am.
It was nice seeing you both on Watch What Happens Live. A lot of people are like, why was Teddi so uncomfortable with her dad being on Watch What Happens Live? I was like, I think anybody would be uncomfortable if their dad, who doesn't normally do interviews, or their parent just who normally doesn't do interviews, is on live television with them.
And he's the type where if I would have pushed him too much, he could have fully shut down.
Yeah.
So I was like, I've got to come in here. This is something we're doing together. It's our first interview we've ever done together, other than when I interviewed him for Extra. And this is a show that like, I did what I had to do. Yes, there were parts for me watching, I was like, cringe. But there were parts that I was like, I'll have that moment forever. Like us singing Paper Moon together. I know that him and Andy really enjoyed each other. I mean, Andy even texted me first afterwards, which I was like, what? Like, I was like, well, I was at dinner and my dad's like, play it cool. Don't respond right away.
Play in demand, hard to get.
He's like, play hard to get. He made me change before we went out to dinner afterwards. He's like, I can't believe you show so much leg. I was like, okay, all right.
Watch what happens live. They want the leg, right? You could own it. You looked great at the MTV Awards too. I know people gave you a lot of shit for that.
Oh, God forbid I have cellulite. Woo!
Right? They like you they don't like you if you're too fake, and they don't like you if you're too real.
Yeah,
can't win.
You can't win them all over. But all that I can do is be as authentic as I possibly can, and that's going to be good some days. It's going to be annoying as fuck others.
Yes. Well, thank you, Teddi. Everyone needs to go. If you're not already subscribed, go and subscribe to Two Teas in a Pod with iHeartRadio. Anything else you wanna pimp out before we wrap?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say pimping out, but I would say that if you're in a situation right now, no matter if you're going through any medical hardships or you're in a place where you're like, I just want to feel better, come check us out over at All In. I'm in a situation right now where I am really needing to be held accountable just to feeling my best, one foot in front of the other. It's never too late to go forward as a pace. And so go check us out over at Go All In by Teddi as well.
And All In it's an accountability program, because a lot of people like to say that
I think you used to come at me back then for that stuff. But All In has truly been the only thing that has ever worked for me to change my life. Because I was one of those people that loved to say I was going to do something and then never did it.
Yeah.
So it's designed to each personalized person on their goals. So whether your goal is, you know what, I've been sedentary and I just want to start walking, or I don't know how to grocery shop, or I want to feed myself and my family, whatever your personal goals are, we will hold you accountable. Whereas your friends or your husband or your partner or your parents are like, I'm sick of hearing you say the same crap over and over again and not do anything to change it. And so if you invest in yourself, ultimately it works. I mean,
and that's what it is.
For me.
It's an investment in yourself, and for me, like, I have to have one of my neighbors in my building. We are accountability buddies when we go to the gym. And so we make sure we get up and hit the gym together, because if it's just on the days when it's just me, sometimes I'm like, oh, and I lag an extra 50 minutes. But if I have somebody that I know that I'm meeting there, or just somebody that I know I have to be accountable to show up, that helps me stay on track with my goals and the things that I want. And I'm somebody that used to struggle with eating disorders and used to have a lot of really bad body dysmorphia. And I've gotten on the other side of that, and I'm in a really healthy place. And so I can even say that accountability and just having somebody that can, just kind of give you that little nudge that you need sometimes, because sometimes personal accountability is really hard getting out of bed. Yeah. It's helpful.
And I think that also, something that people don't talk about it that much, but a lot of people think, oh, I want to get healthy. I want to do that. I'm going to skip eating. I'm going to not do that. Like, this is like, no. Like, we are shopping, we're doing nutritious foods, we are filling our bodies, and we're learning how to properly take care of ourselves. Because I knew my pattern. I would be like, well, I'm just not going to eat. And then I'd pull through McDonald's and I'd be like, all right, I'm going to have an egg and cheese biscuit, cinnamon roll. Like, I just ate all the things, and none of it that actually made me feel good. I felt lethargic and just, not like myself. And ultimately that's what All In is about. Whatever's ultimately going to make you feel your best so that you can take care of yourself and others in your best possible way.
I love it. There you guys go. All In by Teddi and Two Teas in a Pod. Two Teas in a Pod.
two teas in a bod.
2 teas in a bod. I mean, listen, you got 2 teas and you can get you can help, keep your bod feeling great with All In.
Speaking of feeling great, I'm expecting my I'm Lit package to arrive soon.
It's coming this week. I literally have all the packages set up right here in front of me with all the cards. I was writing them out last night. So all the packages will be going out this week. You are on the list. You will be getting some All In, or not some All In, some I'm Lit wine. So you can get lit this holiday season.
All right, we'll do a collab. Drinking wine and taking walks. All right, thank you so much.
I love it. Thank you, Teddi.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, thank you so much, Teddi. I really, really appreciate it. That was a great interview. I had such a blast with Teddi. Guys, go and support. I know her All In program has caught in a lot of heat for like saying that it's promoting eating disorders. I don't think that that is the case at all. I'm somebody that struggled with eating disorders in the past. I went into treatment. I've done therapy. You know, I've come out on the other side, and I've even had like, you know, nutritionists and legal experts on this podcast that have also weighed in on this as well. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. I think, you know, people that want to be, you know, more accountable in their life, I think that, you know, listen, it's not like she's telling people what they have to do. If you don't want to join her program, you don't have to join her program, but it seems like a great program that's worked for a lot of people. And a lot of people, from what I've seen, have had success with it. So, you know what? Kudos to you, Teddi. Kudos to you. And the program's available if people want it, and it's not if people don't want it. And that's really all it comes down to. And I appreciate you guys for always coming with an open ear and an open heart, and taking every guest that comes on No Filter. And I just wanted to thank you guys for another 12 months. Wow, I can't believe we're already wrapping up the year. We're almost done with 2022, everybody. And it's been a wild ride. Thank you guys for supporting the wine at nofilterwine.com. We have the holiday collection that is out right now, and it's selling fast. So stock up before it's gone. It's great for a holiday shindig. It's great for your reality TV obsessed bestie. If you want to buy her or him something this holiday season, a cute little treat, you can get some at nofilterwine.com. 13% alcohol by volume, so you will get Lady City, but less than a gram of sugar, so you won't have that gnarly wine headache tomorrow. It's also great if you're like, listen, I decorated, I cooked, I made it nice, I made my apartment nice, I made the house nice. Then you can sit back, sip some lit rosé, and enjoy your night watching like some Housewives or something. Thank you guys. You can give me a follow at Just Plain Zack if you want to keep up with me. You can follow the podcast for all the latest reality TV tea at No Filter with Zack on the Instagram. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button on your way out. And stay tuned, because there's going to be a lot more great guests and tea to be spilled before we wrap up 2022. Love you guys. Talk to you soon. Ciao for now. Love you, mean it. Bye.